His fingers found the edge of his console. He traced it, the cold metal, the smooth surface, the tiny imperfection at the corner. Beyond the viewport, space had not torn open with the familiar radiation of transit. It simply filled. 1,000 silent dreadnoughts, casting shadows across the burning world. Have you ever stared into the abyss and realized the abyss had been staring back for years? The salt-heavy air of the bridge had felt victorious then, just 3 cycles before the shadows blotted out the stars. Valus veteran polyps had practically hummed with the afterglow of a textbook orbital strike. The reef parliament of the Erethi did not celebrate with cheers. They celebrated with light. Along the wet, bioluminescent walls of the warship's bridge, millions of tiny polyps pulsed in the synchronized rhythm of pale blue. It was a beautiful display of colony cohesion. The air was warm and intensely humid, carrying the thick scent of calcium and deep ocean salt. Valith stood at the center of the command tier. His physical form was a humanoid construct of coral and specialized polyps, bound by a shared neural web. On his left shoulder, a cluster of darker, calcified polyps glowed with a steady sapphire. They had done it. The human settlement on the continent below was nothing more than atmospheric ash. Beneath the observation deck, the tactical officer chittered a soft sound of approval. Target neutralized, Reef Commander. Valith offered a slow nod, feeling the satisfying shift of his composite neck. It had been almost too easy, which meant something was missing. Bring up the debris scans, Valith ordered. A holographic projection flickered above the central plotting table. Wreckage drifted in the exosphere. Among the twisted metal, one object pinged with an active power signature. A comms beacon, the tactical officer observed, captured and isolated. Valith stepped closer. The device was remarkably primitive. On its cracked glass display, a digital countdown was frozen. 0. It read exactly 0. He studied the static numbers. Usually, an evacuation timer stopped when a ship launched or a core detonated. But this beacon was completely intact, and the timer had simply run out. Valith's veteran polyps pulsed a warning rhythm against his collarbone. He thought of the great filter. The universal theorem stated that any species reaching the stars had to survive a Cat-6 scale test of self-destruction. Most civilizations burned themselves to cinders. The ones that didn't became cautious and fiercely protective of their borders. Humanity had passed their filter, clearly, but they left their colonies utterly exposed. It defied all evolutionary logic. Valith shifted his weight. The humid air suddenly felt stifling. He reached out to touch the console, needing the grounding sensation of solid matter to settle the restless shifting of his physical form. A colony organism required harmony. Right now, a subtle, discordant vibration was echoing through his neural web, but the timer bothered him the most. "Commander," the tactical officer said, the fluid confidence draining from his voice. "Something is wrong with the local vacuum." Define wrong. The ambient temperature of space is dropping. Not naturally. It is being displaced. By what? The tactical officer's bioluminescence flickered, flashing a panicked yellow. I don't know. There are no transit signatures. No approach vectors at all. The bridge fell entirely silent. The comforting scent of salt seemed to sour into the sharp tang of ozone. A low, impossible hum vibrated through the deck plating. "Commander, their weapons power readings are..." The officer hesitated, his mandibles clicking. "Sir, are these numbers right?" Valith leaned over the terminal. "Check again." "I have," the officer whispered. 12 times. Join us to uncover more cosmic mysteries, and let's see what the scanners found. The optical sensors finally cleared the localized interference. No spatial tears ripped through the vacuum. No flashes of kinetic deceleration illuminated the dark. The void outside the main viewport simply solidified. Massive silhouettes materialized from the drifting wreckage of the destroyed continent. They had not traveled here through conventional transit lanes. They had been resting in the upper exosphere, completely masked. passively recording the entire orbital bombardment without making a single sound. Now they dropped their camouflage simultaneously. 1,000 geometric dreadnoughts eclipsed the distant suns, casting long, absolute shadows across the burning world below. The sheer mass of their hulls displaced the local vacuum, creating the temperature drop the sensors had blindly detected. Valeth felt a sharp, internal severing. 3 polyps from his veteran's shoulder cluster detached. They floated upward in the humid bridge air like pale blue ash. His colony form was losing cohesion under the sheer, impossible weight of what he was witnessing. A collective organism required absolute harmony to maintain its physical shape, but the terror bleeding through his neural web was causing his very body to reject itself. They were completely surrounded. "They are not charging weapons," the tactical officer whispered. "Commander, they are not doing anything. Evasive maneuvers. Navigation is unresponsive." The officer's bioluminescence flickered and died entirely, plunging his station into darkness. "Weapons are locked. Core output is dropping. They are not hacking us, sir. They are simply turning us off." His fingers found the edge of his console. He traced the cold metal and the tiny imperfection at its corner, staring out at the impenetrable wall of human warships. He waited for the blinding flash of 1,000 kinetic cannons. He waited for the hole to breach. It never came. Instead, the primary communication array flared to life. It bypassed every known Irethi encryption standard in a fraction of a second. The audio feed crackled, clear and artificially synthesized, filling the humid air of the bridge with a terrifyingly calm human voice. "We don't destroy civilizations," the voice echoed through the deck plating. "We give them the choice to destroy themselves." Valeth looked away from the dreadnoughts. He looked down at the captured human beacon on the plotting table. The digital numbers remained frozen. 0. Understanding finally crystallized in his mind, sharp and utterly devastating. The timer had never been a desperate evacuation countdown for a doomed civilian populace. It was an observation window. The massive fleet sitting outside the viewport had not arrived late to save their people. They had been here the entire time, silently anchoring in the dark, using their own settlement as bait to evaluate the Irethi's true nature. If Valeth had chosen to hail the colony or offer terms, the dreadnoughts would have revealed themselves in peace. By choosing an unprovoked strike, the Irethi had actively selected their own immediate extinction. The humans had not failed their great filter. They had survived it, weaponized it, and now applied it to the rest of the galaxy. Another dozen polyps broke away from his chest. They drifted upward toward the ventilation grates, glowing faintly before fading to gray. The reef commander stood in the center of the dead bridge, watching his own body fall apart as the frozen 0 stared back at him.